and the local delicacy, the Bene Bomb.
All right, Rod.
What are we drinking here?
We got a Bene Bomb. Welcome to Burnley.
What did we drink now?
I mean, everybody's had a Jaeger bomb at some point in their lives. You know, you just drop a Jaeger down into a Red Bull, and so we just replace the Jaeger with Benedictine, and you drop it in there, and you just take a quick Bene Bomb, and it does cure a lot of things going on in your life, whether physically, spiritually, emotionally. There's a lot going on.
My guest today is a repeat guest who has been on this show. I've got to check my figures. I think 87 times so far. But he is the highlight of my year. You no doubt know him as that third grade soccer legend in Pewaukee, Wisconsin. Lesser known is that he went on to win the NFL Defensive Player of the Year 3 times in a 12-year career with the Houston Texans and Arizona Cardinals. 114 and a half sacks, a record only equalled by Jose Mourinho. Think about it. Others too know him as the husband of NWSL and US Women's National Team striker Kealia Ohai-Watt. He's a gent whose passion for football, honestly, has been one of the joys of my own broadcasting career. He first came on our show as a soccer-curious NFL star, went down a YouTube wormhole, fell truly madly deeply in love with the game, and then, as a man of action, not just word, put his money where his passions were and invested in one of the truly historic, authentic northern jewels of English football, Burnley FC, became co-owner. It's been magnificent for me to travel to England and watch a game with him there at Turf Moor. And as Burnley charged through a championship promotion campaign clad in hopes and dreams and Bene Bombs, it's a joy to welcome back and say, "Hey up," as they say in Lancashire, and "how do" to the legend, broadcaster, my friend. It's Mr. JJ Watt.
How are you, brother? Thank you very much. As always, just waxing poetically. A lot of lies in there, a lot of tall tales, but I appreciate the kind words.
It's all true. It is so bloody true. But JJ, can I say how good it is to see you? Although I have to be honest, it feels like you are burnt into my retina from that Peloton commercial, which I think is on my television almost as much as the football.
Yeah, no, it's a lot. It's a lot. This face is in your face a lot, and I apologize, but also you're welcome a little bit.
I love it. I can't get enough. When your mother comes on at the end, it makes me laugh every single time. Before we get into it, JJ, I have to say I want to thank our great friends at Volvo, the presenting partner of our entire MIB holiday extravaganza. I've got a deep love for that brand. I've been an owner of a Volvo for so bloody many years. Be sure to check out their overseas delivery program, which is incredible. It offers you, GFOPs, an amazing opportunity to experience Swedish food, culture, hospitality, and engineering all in one life-changing trip. But JJ, we've got to catch the viewers up on Burnley. We know you joined as minority owner May 2023. A cantering Burnley then. I think because you joined, that can be the only reason they galloped to a 101-point championship winning season. But the next year was different emotionally, tough, relegated with a quarter of the points, returned to the championship. Currently though, third place. God, a roller coaster of emotions. You've never been relegated in the NFL. So this was a first, this experience. How did you humanly experience the plummet back down, other than having to follow now on Paramount Plus? What is the biggest difference for you emotionally?
Well, I would have been relegated one time if it was an option. So I'm glad that it wasn't an option, because that would have been brutal. But it has been. It's been a roller coaster. We joined, obviously, midway through the championship season, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and got to enjoy the ride to the top, got to enjoy the parade, got to enjoy the trophy, all of it. And then you go through a very difficult Premier League season that just wasn't, everybody has big dreams. It just didn't quite live up to that. And so now we go through what we're going through now, and we're having a lot of fun. I think the differences between the Premier League and the Championship are plentiful. I think there's many, both from the style of play to obviously the lack of VAR to the fact that you win more games. So it's a lot of fun for the fans, for myself, for everybody. And it's very, very different but it's very, very enjoyable. I love it. Obviously, I want to go back to the Premier League, but it's rough and tumble. It's violent. It's no VAR. It's just show up and play. Sometimes midweek, sometimes 3 games in a week. Don't care. I love the Championship.
Oh, God. By the way, the idea of pro-relegation for NFL is both thrilling and terrifying. I think I'd be a fan of League One Chicago Bears within about 2 seasons.
Everybody always talks about college football. Do you think that, Alabama at their peak could beat the lowest ranked NFL team? And I don't think people truly understand the different level there. But that's what's so beautiful about the English game is the multiple tiers, and you have the FA Cup or whatever you may have, and you might have a 3rd or 4th tier team taking down a Premier League team. That's the beauty of it. I don't think that would ever happen with a college team and an NFL team.
Oh, Burnley, the Boise State of England. I mean, but Burnley it is its own particular remarkable culture. And I want to start by reliving some of the beats of, as I said, and this was not a lie in any way. One of the joys when I look back on 2024, when I get sent by Google Photos the review of my year, is my trip to Burnley to watch the victory over Portsmouth. I loved all of it. We'll get to the game in a minute, the game experience. But first of all, arriving with you, JJ, strolling around the town, viewers, this northern town, built of former pomp, industrial revolution era, cotton mills, coal mining, a town that feels as if it was forged of pie and ale. I mean, the pre-match experience, we started off with you just barreling into the pre-match boozer, the Royal Dyche, yes, a pub named after Sean, whose face looks down quite disconcertingly from signs and murals everywhere like a benign dictator. You just ran behind the bar, you pulled pints. It was like seeing a large dog, a Leonberger, let off his leash in the park in the morning. You're like a semi-regular.
It's a blast. I have my pre-match routine down. I get dropped off at the Dyche. We walk in, I pour a pint behind the bar, have a drink with the supporters, and we enjoy our time, take a few photos, of course, and then we scoot our way down to Burnley Miners Club, which is a very, very different vibe, as you know now. You can tell these people have been around for a very long time. They're sitting down. They're not standing around the bar. And then we have our Bene Bomb in there. And then from there, we walk in with the supporters to the beautiful Turf Moor.
You've just collapsed about 2 hours of wonder into a couple of sentences. And it's like an exquisite Burnley goal. It does bear breaking down. First of all, when you say you chat to people, you really do, but you've got to imagine, if you're listening to this 6'5", very American gent just bounding round on the streets of Burnley. Season ticket holding regulars just come up to you like, all right, JJ, what else do you think we're going to do today? And the natural connection between you and the town of Burnley and the Burnley fans was natural. It was hilarious, but it was self-evident and really, really beautiful. You had no bouncers. You had no entourage. Let's be honest. You know that I'm not that much help in a fight, but it was just you as a fan talking to other fans, you child of Wisconsin in Lancashire. And I just saw this bond, a very natural passion for football.
I don't think that bond would be there if I had security with me. That's part of the main reason that I do it that way, is because I feel like it wouldn't be authentic. It wouldn't be real. Like, I'm not scared of anybody in Burnley because there are people like this. They are who I want to be a part of. So I want to show them that I trust you. I want to be here. I want to chat with you. I want to talk about the match just like you do. And I'm not worried about anything. And also, Raj, let's be honest. If somebody decided to have a pop, it's gonna be a rough time. So I think we'll be all right.
You and I approach the world in such different ways. The only thing I'm on with is my mouth. But the Miners Club, which I walked into, and I just wanted to. I mean, you have to go, listeners. That's what I'm saying, because I'm about to say something that's just probably deeply offensive to Burnley. I wanted to move it over brick by brick. If this boozer existed in New York City, it would be the place to go, but it could never exist in New York City. It has grown and thrived. I mean, it's just got a faded authenticity of wonder that can only exist where it is. And the local delicacy, the Bene Bomb.
All right, Rod.
What are we drinking
We
here?
got a Bene Bombs. Welcome to Burnley.
I'd say it is a great tradition in a town full of traditions, Burnley. I always love this story. There's a liqueur, Benedictine. It's the golden liqueur. It's distilled by monks in Normandy, France. I always love that. The monks are like, yeah, I'm going to make some liquor. And it's just a quirk of fate and tradition. I think that Benedictine was discovered by the men of the 11th Battalion of the East Lancashire Regiment during the First World War. The myth is they were nursed back to health when they had war wounds with Benedictine in the hospitals. Then they brought it back to Burnley. Burnley is the greatest importer of Benedictine in the world, and the Miners Club is the single greatest sales place for the drink. What did we drink though? The Bene Bomb, because it was magnificent.
I mean, everybody's had a Jaeger bomb at some point in their lives. You know, you just drop a Jaeger down into a Red Bull, and so we just replace the Jaeger with Benedictine, and you drop it in there, and you just take a quick Bene Bomb, and it does cure a lot of things going on in your life, whether physically, spiritually, emotionally. There's a lot going on, but I love walking into Miners, and I'm so happy you got to experience it, because walking into Miners is like walking back in time. I mean, everything is preserved, the carpet, the chairs, the tables. Like, you feel like you could be, we could walk to Turf Moor and watch Jimmy McElroy play, or we could be watching Ashley Barnes, or we could be watching Jay Rodriguez. Like,
it could have been the 1950s. JJ, it could have been. And that drink, essentially, listeners, it tasted, if you can imagine, the bastard offspring of whiskey and brandy. And man, and take that down, I think it was 11 o'clock in the morning. It felt for a moment that Burnley had been granted instant promotion.
It was a great moment, and I will cherish that trip with you forever, because it was a blast, and seeing you experience Burnley was thoroughly enjoyable.
I have to give a quick shout out to Hafner's Pies, which are worth the trip on their own. Been around since 1889. Steak and kidney is death row worthy as a meal. JJ, when are you going to be opening the Wisconsin branch of Hafner's?
It would crush in Wisconsin. I can tell you that. There are some serious crossovers between Burnley and Wisconsin, and a Hafner's Pie is one of them, and the pub concentration is another. We have some synergies.
Twin those cities now. But then on to the home ground, Turf Moor, to watch Burnley play Portsmouth on this day. Turf Moor, where, and be candid, I have never been before, and I just want to say it is a must visit for any fan travelling to the northwest of England. If you're going to go and watch your Liverpools, one of your Manchester clubs, the great clubs of the region, Everton, obviously, get tickets for Burnley. Because how would you describe Turf Moor?
A proper English ground. I think it's an old school, proper English ground where, you always hear the joke, can you do it on a cold Tuesday night in Stoke, or a rainy night in Stoke? I feel like Turf Moor can't be too far off from that. I haven't been to Stoke yet, but I feel like it's similar, where it's people that have had their season tickets in their family for generations and generations. It's not the prettiest, poshest ground by any means. But when you go in, you can feel the history, you can feel the tradition, you can feel the passion from the fans. I mean, our stand that holds our supporters and the away supporters bounces when they bounce. Like, there's some quirks to it, but it's raw, it's real, and I think that's the beauty of it.
It took me back to my childhood, honestly, football, how it once was. It was like a time capsule in the greatest ways. The floodlights, the signage, the smell, the sight, the locality of the fans. Like, genuinely, when you go to a Premier League game now, it's a gathering, a global gathering around football. This was an audience who were very, very Burnley, congregating around their town in a proud, multi-generational way. I will say, I did leave and think I would love to take a trip with you GFOPs to the north of England and go to a Burnley game so we can experiencing it together. Turf Moor, a place where the history, the passion and community more than anything really propel your old school club. It all seeps through really, I mean transcendently, JJ.
Yeah, that's what makes it special, and that's what draws me and other Americans, my understanding, to English football, is that history, that tradition, that unrivaled passion. Whereas, like we've talked about before, over here, kids are starting to become fans of other teams because of, whether it's Madden or whether it's fantasy football. It's kind of becoming muddled. There's definitely still some deep fanhood, But let's be honest, it's not the same as an English football fanhood where there is no choice whatsoever. You're putting on one kit, that's it.
And the fact that we got to witness a 94th minute Burnley winner that propelled the Clarets into the top four. I would say watching you lose your mind, one of my top 10 memories of this year. Football, Burnley football, it does something different to you.
It was beautiful. I mean, we're sitting there and thinking like, oh, Raj came all this way and we're going to get a draw. And man, I just wanted him to see a win and have a great memory. And we're getting there in like the 89th, 90th. Like, oh, darn. And then just a moment of beauty. And then it was the perfect limbs situation in real time. You can't script it. Let's be honest, Raj, that's why we love sports. You can't get that anywhere else. You can't get it at a play. You can't get it at a construction site. You can't get it at a movie theater. You can't get that unexpected, unrivaled joy. And what a moment. You
also can't get it as an Everton fan, so I had to borrow it from you. And the thing I loved about it is that there's a video of it, and you flew home. This is very JJ. Flew home, went right to CBS to broadcast the NFL the next day. And I think in the opening scenes, they showed you at Burnley. And the American fan base loved it too. It is something that anybody, apart from an Everton fan or a Chicago Bears fan, not you Cleveland Browns fans either, can relate to. And it is magnificent. And I want to touch on the Burnley journey this season because it has been fascinating. Last time you came on this show was actually with then Burnley manager Vincent Kompany. He turned lemon skins into lemonade and decamped after the relegation to take over German giants Bayern Munich, which added to the transitional change needed when you returned to the Championship. I'll be honest, I did not see this sequence of events coming at all. How did you experience it, and how did it even all go down?
Yeah, well, I mean, how it all went down is a much longer story for a much later day when time has passed and things can be discussed.
A couple of Bene Bombs.
Yeah. That's one for me and you to talk over in the pub. But it was, I mean, obviously unexpected is a proper term, I think, for everybody involved. But then all you can do at that moment is say, all right, and now we figure out what's next. We figure out how we move forward, and we move forward with
Scotty Parker.
He's been great. Yeah, very, very different personalities, play styles, everything, just completely different styles. But the boys have really taken to him. They love Scott. They've really enjoyed it so far. And yeah, it's been great.
We'll get to Scott Parker in a minute because he is a very interesting character. The boys have gotten to play football without the aid of a manager in a signature baseball cap. They can still do it. But that managerial shuffle, we've talked about it. In English football, you find it crazy, just the hire and fire culture compared to the NFL. I mean, the Bears just fired a coach in mid-season for the first time in their history. Are you surprised by how quickly English clubs do pull their trigger? I mean, we always talk about the sack race. We always know it's coming. It's just a matter of when. From an NFL player's perspective, this is just much more stability in the NFL. How do you understand it?
Yeah, I look at it. It's so fascinating to me, and I love digging into it because for me, it's all about how much needs to change when a new manager comes in or when a new coach comes in. So in the NFL, many, many things are changing. Your strength staff is changing, possibly your cafeteria staff, possibly, you might be redesigning your weight room or your meeting rooms. Like when a coach changes, the entire building changes. Whereas in the Premier League or in English football, you can kind of plug and play a coach, and sometimes the rest of the coaching staff doesn't even change. They just plug and play a head coach or a new manager, and they just kind of work within it. And he can change the tactics, and you go out to the field, and you can play the next day. If you tried to change a full staff, I'm not talking about an interim coach. I'm talking a full staff. If you brought in, let's talk about your Bears. If today you brought in a coach that wasn't in the organization right now, it'd be physically impossible for him to get a game together by Sunday because the playbook would be different. The terminology would be different. He would not be able to get his guys on the same page. Whereas if Man United brings in a manager on Wednesday, he can manage that team on Sunday. It's crazy.
You just have to change the name on the parking spot, essentially, in English football.
Yeah, but it is really interesting because it can change a organization really, really quickly. A club can, whether it's culture, whether it's tactics, whatever it may be, in English football, you can flip it quickly. But just like the NFL, there's also situations where everybody wants immediate success. So we're flipping through managers and we're not letting them really get their roots into a club and build something. And that's always the challenge.
You know, Rory Smith, my partner on the Monday podcast, always says an incoming manager in English football can only do one of two things. They can either just banish ketchup in the cafeteria if the last manager allowed everything to happen, or if the last manager had already banished ketchup, then they allow ketchup back in. Those are like the only two things we know.
The NFL equivalent of that is the ping pong table in the locker room. You either take it out or you give it back. You're one of the two. That's it.
It's sending that sign. I do love that the coach comes in and even changes the weight room. It's that level of meticulous detail and Godspeed. But back to Burnley. Kompany goes. And I know that Burnley quickly established a technical committee to search for a new leader. There was a list of 100 names, according to The Athletic, that were whittled down to 12 data-driven metrics. Interviews happened in a hotel near Manchester Airport. And we know how it ends up. You've already told us. Spoiler alert, it's Scott Parker. Now replete, well, we'll say quite fetching floppy hair. He's the gent who you eventually hired. What was that like? What did you learn from watching your first search experience go down?
It's interesting. It's extensive. It's obviously takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort and resources. And it also was the first time that I've been able to kind of be in one of those situations where you can feel the true weight of it and how important that decision is and how much you're digging into every question and every answer and trying to dissect it, because you really realize how big it is. Even as a player, when I was playing, I understood how these decisions go and everything. But when you're sitting there having those conversations, you're trying to picture your club not only 1 year down the road, but 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and how you want your club to be built. And it was fascinating. But he's done a great job. Like I said, he came in and also had a very, very difficult hand right at the beginning with the transfer window and everything. It was crazy.
The transfer window is fascinating. I mean, the English manager thing, to go back to your NFL point, I once asked Pep Guardiola whether a football manager is like Bill Belichick, like they know everything. When they're watching a game, they know how every player is going to move in every single second because you have commanded them in training to do exactly what your will is. Or whether it's like watching, great jazz, just incredible people. Once the game's on, it's like watching Charlie Parker and Miles Davis just kind of freestyle and improvise. And he had an answer, which I'll give you in 1 second, but you're an NFL player who's used to, pre-designed plays in meticulous detail. When you see the impact of an English football manager and their level of control, where would you say it is in between like Belichickian all the way through to like Miles Davis?
I think there's two different styles of that. And I think we saw that throughout our process as well. Is you see the managers who have that deep, deep level of meticulous, I want it done this way. Every pass should be like this. I know exactly where you should be going with the next ball. And then on the complete opposite end, you have those guys that are free flowing. I'm going to give you the concepts, but you are the artist. You go out there and you paint the picture. That's the same thing in the NFL. There are coaches in the NFL who will be drill sergeants. You do it this way. If you don't do it this way, I won't play you. And then there's other ones that say, the reason you're here is because you're a great athlete. I don't want to try and put you in a cage. I want to let you be that great athlete.
Which did you prefer? You like the one who just said ping pong table?
I was a little notorious for painting outside the lines every now and then. So I like a guy who would let me paint outside the lines. But some of my best football ever was played with a guy who knew how to put me back in those lines. And sometimes the best players need that structure because you have so many things going on in your head and so many ideas, and you can do so much that you need somebody to focus that energy somewhere.
Who was that man?
My defensive line coach, my rookie year, my second year, Bill Kolar. We hated each other for a little bit. I don't know who hated who more. I think he might have hated me a little bit. I hated him. Made me question if I even wanted to play football. But now, best friends, and couldn't imagine where I would be without him. So that man put me right back where I needed to be.
Don't take away this man's ketchup. It was a summer of upheaval. You've said that. I mean, Scott Parker's hand, you said. It was a transfer window. I think Burnley signed 15 players, sold an incredible 20, including Wilson Odobert, $30 million to Spurs, Sander Berge, $25 million to Fulham. When you're rebuilding a squad like that, to retrofit it for the Championship, are you thinking, let's invest in guys who can hit the Premier League in a season, or are you more looking at value multiple seasons down the line? How do you get your heads around that?
The transfer window and the transfer market, especially when you're in a relegation, you're kind of going up, going down, is a really interesting study for me, because you have some guys, you want to build your squad with the best players possible. So sometimes you're trying to find young guys who are incredible talents and they have the opportunity to go play in the Premier League someday. And so that's kind of like investing. You're investing in a young guy, hoping it turns out. And then you have other guys who you want to be a core part of your squad for a very long time, and you'd like to hold on to them, and they're not just a project to go on. We obviously had some guys who were just that quality. We knew Wilson Odobert was going to be that level. So we knew we wouldn't have him forever, but we wanted him as long as we could. And someday he was going to be gone, and he was gone pretty quickly because he's that level of talent. There's this squad making discussion that you always have in the boardroom. Look at Sean's old teams with Burnley. He had a team that stayed together for an extremely long time. And they were kind of academy guys that came up, and they stayed on this journey, and they stayed in the Premier League for 7-8 years because they were one core group. But that also means that one core group gets older at the same time. So how are you replenishing that underneath? So then there's the opposite argument of, okay, do we build it young and kind of try and piecemeal it all together and get the right combo? It's a decision, and that's the ownership decision that you have.
The Championship 2023, Burnley danced through that league, but that kind of made a light work of just how grueling a bear pit it can be. Games flying in your face non-stop, 22 teams, all knife fighting away to get into the Premier League. It is a different kind of football. If listeners are just Premier League obsessed, the football in the Championship, it is different. I mean, it is different gravy than what they're used to watching.
It's a completely different style. And I truthfully enjoy watching it more. Like, it is a physical battle. It is a little more grimy, I would say, a little more rough and tumble, a little more, you stick your elbows out. And I love that. And I also, there's times where I wish we had VAR, but there's also times I'm very thankful we don't have VAR. So, it just like you can attest to this. It does make scoring a goal that much more enjoyable because you get to just be truly elated about it. You don't have to look and be like, VAR, VAR, VAR. You just get to pure joy.
It's old school. It is old school. As we pod, Burnley are in third place. I'm asking for Everton fans, what's it like to win again? Does it make your life easier when there is just positive momentum?
It is enjoyable. I will say that. Obviously, after a season that we had in the Premier League last year, it is enjoyable to win again. When we were in the Championship last time, you score 100 and whatever points, and we're kind of, especially the second half of that season, we were kind of running free. Our defense has been phenomenal this year. There's no doubt. I mean, we're setting records on the defensive side. Offensive side has been a little slower to catch up, but I do think that as we go, Scott and the boys are going to gel more and figure that out.
When I went to the game with you, I can now reveal that I was actually on a double mission. I went to enjoy Turf Moor, Bene bombing up, half the pie up, but I also went to try and persuade young Burnley star Norwalk, Connecticut's Luca Koleosho. I wanted to try and persuade him to play for the United States of America. Luca is so young. He's so unbelievably talented. He's a dribbling machine. Spent his first 11 years in the US. Played, I think, with the Manhattan Kickers before at a very young age departed for Spain to begin to forge a career there. Came through the ranks at Espanyol. Then muscled his way into the Premier League. Played minutes last season as a teenager. Was injured, but is back. It was remarkable to watch him dance on that field again. When you see Koleosho on the ball, what happens in your heart and your head and your loins? Can you describe?
He's so fast. He's electric. He can go by anybody. He can chase down anybody when he's coming back on defense. And the thing about Luca is he wants it so badly. So he is so tough on himself, and he is so hard on himself. And you can see it on the pitch, whether it's, one time he gives the ball away, or whether it's one time he doesn't necessarily get the shot off. He takes it so hard because of how much love and passion he has for this game. And that's what I love about him, is he's a great player and he's so young, but he already just has that drive and desire to be the best.
And here's the honest truth, America. Luca Koleosho can play for the United States, Canada, Nigeria, or Italy. He was born in the US to a Nigerian father, and this is incredible, an Italian-Canadian mother. He has got options. But when we were there, you and I were on the field before the game, you saw Luca, and you just charged into the centre circle, and the two of you were just chopping it up. And what is private stays private. We know that. These are the rules. But what can you tell us about that conversation, JJ?
We talk quite a bit, actually. That day we were talking a lot about the Eagles because he's an Eagles fan. We did talk a little bit about the national team, and we discussed that often because he is still a young guy trying to figure it all out and just learning and asking questions. We talk about LeBron because he loves LeBron, so we talk about LeBron. But then we're just shooting the breeze. I think for me as a player, that's the thing I miss most, is you miss hanging around the players. You miss just talking. You miss just hanging out. And so when I got to go over there and hang out with those guys, that's my favorite part anytime I go over, is just hanging out with the boys and asking them how everything's going and just seeing how it is.
We just got to get Nick Sirianni to make a personal plea video, right? Nick Sirianni just been like, Luca, come and play for, and then he'll look down at the card, the US men's national team.
Luca's funny though, because he'll probably message back and say, okay, if they win the Super Bowl, then I'll do it. So,
come on, the Eagles.
No pressure.
Can you make the case to Luca, if he's watching this, why he should come and ride with us in the United States?
I mean, having watched him personally and knowing the electricity that he brings, knowing the speed that he brings, and knowing the status of American soccer right now and what lies ahead with the World Cups, with the Olympics, with everything. I can't think of a better person to lead that next generation, to be the face of American soccer. And I think that Luca would be phenomenal for that. I think not only on the field, but I think off the field, I think he would be a marketing success. And I don't know if he truly, that's the one thing I keep trying to get to him, is I don't know if you truly understand the opportunity at hand here in America and what legacy and generational wealth that you could have if you succeed here.
So Luca, what JJ's saying is, I don't know if you like money. You might not, in which case,
I'm just saying.
But if you like money, also, Luca, if you want to defend the World Cup title in 2030, come and play with us, baby. Because we're going to win in 2026. We're going to beat Saudi Arabia in the final. I have never owned a football club. Clearly, from the hot mess of conversation I've just dragged you into over the last 3 minutes of Luca Koleosho. But what does success look like for you? We're about to flip into the new year, the business end of the season. When you envision what a rip-roaring successful 2025 looks like for Burnley Football Club, is it on-field promotion? Is it financial strength? Is it fans from across America starting to make the pilgrimage to the Royal Deutsch?
Before I answer, I have to ask you a question because you just spun something in my head.
Go on.
Let's say you were manager of Everton, or no, let's say you were owner of Everton today.
Yes.
What are your first 2 to 3 moves?
First of all, hello, Friedkins of Houston. I'm very, very grateful for you for being. I think it's stability for Everton Football Club is like this. I'd love a mid-table obscurity, JJ. That sounds to me genuinely like a trip to Fuddruckers to one of my kids. Like just safety, just no nonsense. So I'd say bolstering everything. I'd give 3 Bene Bombs to every fan who's going on Sunday because I'll be there. And I would probably think about a managerial replacement and give these fans who have suffered and who are the greatest element, like you felt when we were in Burnley, JJ. I mean, the Everton fans who have, just an agony. This was a once great club. They still feel in their hearts that greatness, like Goodison Park, the stadium that we're about to leave, has become shabbied and faded. And so give the fans what they want and crave. Everton, ultimately, they will win things again, but we want to see a team that fights. That's ultimately what Everton fans want, a team that just have collective passion and fight again.
So you're going new stadium, new manager.
New stadium, new manager, and possibly what investment would probably be those three things in that order.
All right, I'll give you my answer then for what success looks like in the coming year. I mean, promotion is number one. Obviously, we want promotion. Once you hopefully secure that, then the goal is to win it. You want the trophy, of course. But then it is, just as you said about Everton, it's setting up sustainable success. So it's not only having our vision of what we want to accomplish, which I believe we have, it's implementing that in the stability. Like you said, we saw at the beginning of this season, a lot of instability with players coming in, players going out. I personally think that having a core group that sticks with the squad and the fans can truly get to know and love and cherish, that is something special. I understand the business side of needing to buy and sell players and how all that works and everything. And I understand why the supporters want it, because that's how you build a team. But I also believe, both within the squad and within the community, having stability on your squad and growing and loving these players is huge.
Amen. I mean, that was much more articulate and intelligent than my blabbering mess. But you were recently in the news. I think that's what they call blue sky nowadays. You brought your beautiful son, Koa, to a Pittsburgh Steelers game to watch his uncle TJ. And teaching Koa how to do the terrible towel made national news. It was so bloody heartwarming. Koa turned 2 recently. I know you've already taken him to Burnley. But how old does Koa have to be before you're in the Miners Club, father and son, just unleashing an adorable viral video of just the two of you smashing a Bene Bomb?
I feel like it would be slightly more acceptable there than most places. I do. It might help with the teething, that's for sure. You toss a Bene Bomb down, that might help with teething. But he loved it. He really enjoyed when we went over there. We're going to get him over there again because he loved being out there on the pitch. He loved walking around and seeing the players. So it's pretty cool. It's so cool for me to have pictures of him on the pitch. Like that is, I cherish those.
But let's close with the big one. I'm going to say a Premier League player, JJ. You're going to give me the NFL equivalent.
Oh, boy.
Genuinely. Are you ready for this?
I don't know.
I mean, it is fascinating. The two sports, the mutual wonder. Whenever I interview a footballer, I always do say to them, God, they love you in America. They, if you were here, they think you'd be an incredible quarterback or a great running back. And the number of Premier League stars who then want to talk about the NFL is amazing. But first up, the Egyptian king. Who's his NFL comparison? Mo Salah.
Mo Salah. When I think of Mo Salah, I think of unbelievable individual talent, obviously. I think he finally got himself a Premier League and a Champions League, so he got his championship. Maybe it was not the first half of his career, but the second. So for him, I would go with Matthew Stafford. Tons of individual success, but didn't quite get that championship until a little bit later.
God bless Matthew Stafford running down the wing. Number 2, Ewok assassin, Bukayo Saka, who would probably be a bloody good NFL player.
I would say Jalen Hurts. I would say young, very successful, very good player. Fans like to pick him apart for some reason. They're great players. Fans love to just try and find reasons not to like him, but they don't really give you any reason not to like him. So I don't know why. And also has played very successfully and gotten close to winning, but hasn't quite won the championship yet. So. Oh,
God. By the way, Eagles fan TV, like Arsenal fan TV, would be genuinely that. Somebody needs to build that, and not just for Luca Koleosho's benefit, but that venting, that fume, that human joy would be incredible. But finally, the one true Maverick Prince of Chippy Chips, Mr. Cole Palmer.
Ooh, that's a good one. Immediately, first one that came to my mind was Justin Jefferson. Young, outstandingly talented. Teams haven't necessarily matched their individual talent so far, but this year, both of their teams are matching their individual talent, and both of them, maybe almost shockingly, competing for championships. So, Justin Jefferson.
both Justin Jefferson and Cole Palmer kill my team on the regs. There's an element of Saquon Barkley in there, going from like one big club to another big club in a rare way.
You're right.
Like he went from the Giants to the Eagles and almost made them instant from pretenders to contenders. There's also an element of TJ Watt in all of them, wouldn't you say?
Yes, in that they are great. I mean, he is still my brother at the end of the day. So I could beat them all up. I could beat him up. So yeah, I could say that.
I'm still loving. On the flight home, you were going to interview TJ the next day. They didn't make him do the pre-matching. You were talking about how much he will hate every single second because he's so in the zone. And you went and did it anyway. And he said exactly what you predicted he would do.
I know him too well. We know each other way, way too well. So, but that's also the beauty of it. It's the coolest thing in the world to have my brother, both of my brothers, doing the same thing that I did, and we get to have discussions that nobody else on the planet gets to have. It's really cool.
Before we get to the last question, I have to say again, thank you to the great friends of ours at Volvo, who are the presenting partner of the Men in Blazers Holiday Extravaganza and have made all of this possible. Remember, find out more about their overseas delivery program this holiday season. Oh, and JJ, I don't know if you know this off the top of your head. We are just 539 days away from the kickoff of the Men's World Cup 2026 on our shores. You're an NFL gent. You've told me before that soccer, when we've talked about it, will grow but never take over from the NFL in this nation. But do you believe the United States men can win a World Cup in our lifetime?
I do believe they can. I do believe that soccer will. I think there could be a day. I don't think it is right now, but I do think there could be a day far down the line where it becomes even bigger. I mean, soccer is the world's game. That's just, it is what it is. And we have unbelievable athletes here. It's just that there's so much to choose from and that we diversify it so much that it's not like in England where everybody plays one sport and that's where all the cream rises. There's so much to do here. So I do think that we have the athletes to do it. I think it might take a little longer than we might like.
Koa Watt will be playing for them, you think?
He's a little too big. He's a big boy. He's not going to make it up and down the pitch that many times, Raj.
You know, I imagine Koa Watt, Luca Koleosho will be about Tim Ream's age by then. The two of them together be unstoppable.
Yeah, he'll still be running circles around him. As Koa will be the goalie. Like that's his number one shot. But he's going to get pretty tired during the beep test. I can tell you that.
JJ, to you, to your football club, to your family, to the season ahead. Big, big love. Thank you, mate.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you always.
Courage.